Hyder is actually an international design and advisory consultancy, and we have already had 150 years of history. We provide technical professional services in engineering, planning, environment, and management. So we involve with all the infrastructure construction projects and also related to the environment. We globally we have about nearly 5,000 staff, all highly skilled professional staff, and our projects span globally, almost sort of dated back 150 years. Some of the notable structure perhaps that we like landmark sort of a building or transportation structure include the Sydney Harbour Bridge, London Tower Bridge. In London we have this Humber Bridge, Bosphorus Bridge. So there are many infrastructure that we have built. If we bring it back closer to East Asia, we came to Hong Kong some 40 years ago, and we were involved in we came to Hong Kong, basically is when Hong Kong wanted to build the mass transit railway. So we were in the early stage with the mass transit planning in Hong Kong. In fact, I had some brochure here that I can leave it with you later on, so that you can probably have a lot more information in the written form. So we were actually involved in the early planning of the mass transport study in Hong Kong. Interesting enough, I think we also in fact are involved with the Guangzhou Metro in the early stage when they are doing the planning side. And I think we also did involve in a number of the projects in Guangzhou Metro. I also had actually some project sheet in here that I think I can leave it with you. We have like a Guangzhou Metro, one of the stations that we were involved in the Guangzhou. So that is on the metro side. On the Hong Kong, we also have in Hong Kong we built a lot of major infrastructure, and just about all the cross harbour tunnel in Hong Kong, the cross harbour tunnel, the Western Harbour crossing, the Eastern Harbour crossing, our company are involved in it. So along with a lot of roads and bridges in Hong Kong as well. In Shenzhen, we were actually involved in one of the Shenzhen River environmental improvement back in about a few years ago. But I think more interesting is, in fact, if you date it back to nearly 100 years ago, our company at that time was called John Taylor and Son, was actually the designer for the Yangtze water treatment plant in Shanghai.
100 years ago?
Yes, this is more than 100 years ago, in 1883. Yeah, and I think this water treatment plant is still being used in Shanghai right now. Yes, and if I remember correctly, they are actually still providing quite a lot of water supply, 1.48 million cubic meter per day. So yes, for the Shanghai area. So this is just a little bit of a history that we had related to China and Hong Kong. If you wanted to date it back our history, it was actually, I do have a flow chart here that show our history from 1850 to now. And our early sort of a company that were formed, what we call Hyder today, in 1996, was actually from Freeman Fox and Partner. and John Taylor and Son. And later our name was actually changed a few times to Hyder Consulting, and in 1996 we were renamed as Hyder Consulting. So I think that has been, we've been called Hyder since. We are actually very much a British company as we start off, even though now we are really global.
So actually, early from 100 years ago, that you have projects here in China, and also, as you mentioned just before, as in Hong Kong and Guangzhou, and also now in Shenzhen. So China is quite a big market for Hyder company,
yes.
right?
Yes, certainly. I think China is a very big market. We usually have to explain to our head office that China is a continent. If you take one province out, like Jiangsu, it's almost like one England, UK. Similar population, size is almost the same. So when we talk about China, it's actually a continent, and it's very big. Our involvement in China has been continuous, and certainly from Hong Kong, we work in China project, quite a lot of them, from various cities like Tianjin, Chengdu, Guangzhou, of course, Shenzhen as well.
Is it all related to the metro subways or kind of mass transportation infrastructures?
I think it is various projects, and of course we have 4 major sectors that we work. One is transportation, another area is property, and also environment and water, and there's another 4th area that we are expanding. There is energy, industrial, and resources in that area. In terms of the infrastructure, of course, we do build a lot in the region, not only in Hong Kong, China, and also in Taiwan as well. Taiwan High-Speed Rail, we also were involved in that project. In the property, we work quite a number of projects in the property in China, in town planning, in landscaping, in hotel, mixed development. We work in quite a number of projects in China.
Kind of a well-rounded company, a lot of business.
Yes,
involved.
I think we are a well-rounded company providing fairly comprehensive integrated services to our client. In fact, we are proud to be say that client trust us with their most important project, and architect trust us with their most creative concept. So this is what we do, a very comprehensive study, engineering consulting company.
What about nowadays or today in
And we start off the Shenzhen office with the intention that Shenzhen office is going to become a design center for Hyder, providing a design services to Hyder, not just in Hong Kong, but would be for the whole entire groups worldwide. So one of the very basic requirement, as I said, is actually you need to have a big pool of talented, skilled people that we can hire in Shenzhen, and I think that China has now have that condition and that requirement. So our office was set up here with that thing in mind, that we'll hire local engineers and we'll train them so that they can be used to provide a design services, to provide that services to our groups. So Shenzhen office actually are involved in not only just project in China, they are actually involved project internationally. And we do actually, right now in the last 1 or 2 years, we actually do a lot of work, project in Middle East, which is another booming area, particularly in the tall building. Tall building, we have a very prominent establishment in Middle East, and I actually have a brochure here that shows all the tall building that Hyder was involved in the Middle East.
And as you mentioned, I think Hyder is kind of an expert on the tall buildings. And Shenzhen also has a lot of tall buildings, as we mentioned just now. And what do you have your suggestions on them, and maybe some other plans your company have here in Shenzhen?
Well, I think we are involved in many of the tall buildings, but we work alongside with the architect, with the planner. Obviously, any of the building, it will need to be user-friendly for the occupant, got to be fit for purpose. Recently, we were involved in Nanchang Station and Meifu Station for the West Rail Line, which is open in 2003. That was the last railway, one of the major railway development in Hong Kong. For both that project, Nanchang Station and Meifu Station, we actually did win some international award for that two project. I think they are from the British construction industry award us that award. So it was a fairly notable design. One of them, like the Meifu Station, was set in a park-like environment. So the station has to design like blending together with the park, preserving the park. That was actually where the station was built. So it is. We do involve in a lot of metro in Hong Kong.
Do you have any opinions or suggestions on the tall buildings here in Shenzhen?
Well, I think in terms of tall building in Shenzhen, I think Shenzhen has built some fairly remarkable building. One area that we always, as a consulting firm, we do promote that the building and the environment got to fit together, and any design that we are doing also are environmentally friendly, and also lately that we really stress a lot is also what we call a sustainable building design, so that the building itself we do want to build it brand new with the environment, using the minimal sort of effect onto the world sort of environment. So we do sort of carbon impact assessment in terms of choice of material we use, and also in the design we would also have to put in like how to save the energies, and we integrated that into our design of the building. So that area perhaps is something that I think in China is quickly also following the footsteps of the international in consider that sustainable design concept to the building design, not just really providing a floor area or the height of the building. So I think, but I can see that China is, the building construction is already moving in that way. We do have quite a number of assignments that with some of the companies start doing that sort of work, what we call ESD.
Yeah, maybe as your personal experience, because you've lived in Hong Kong and worked in Hong Kong for a kind of long time, and now you've moved in Shenzhen. And
not only just Hong Kong, Shenzhen, maybe also overseas. I think every city has its own characteristic, and I think it also need to grow together with the history, and that would make that city interesting. I think Hong Kong is quite different. It developed up. If you follow the historical development, then you can understand certain development in that area. And I think Shenzhen is growing up from nearly only 30 years ago from nowhere, and I think it slowly is creating that sort of a history of its own. And I think that would form sort of a part of an interesting history with the city. I don't think one can say is better in one or the other. Like even if I compare, say New Zealand, where I've been living there for 15 years, the two cities, Wellington and Auckland, they are different. Even though they are in the same country, basically been planned by very similar types of people, but the city itself has its own characteristic. Auckland got a beautiful harbour, hilly area, windy, and the city grown up with time, and it's different from Auckland, where it is more widespread. Boundary is not that clearly from one suburb to another, so it had its characteristic. I think it's not. I think it will make the city more interesting that way when it is different. Don't make every city the same, because if you do that, then I think it lost the characteristic. So I'm not too. I think each city should develop itself that suit its particular requirement at that time. As a history progress, you can then tell a very interesting story. Like Shenzhen, it probably started off from Circle, if I'm correct. Circle as a port development industry, and then Shenzhen city grew up. It would have its own interesting historical development that relate to the city development itself. So I think that would make different city interesting in that way. So I don't think sort of one should really make every city exactly the same.
Well, maybe a kind of difficult question for you.
Yes.
What do you think that differentiates Shenzhen to other cities?
Well, Shenzhen, I think, is a very migratory type of city. So Shenzhen is quite different when I compare it in Nanjing. People in Nanjing are more settled. They are all there, living there for a long time, and people have family there, they don't want to leave. So you find it sort of like a more older city, stable population. Shenzhen is very much a lot of migrant city, change quite rapidly. A lot of people come here looking for opportunity, looking for experience. So it then forms its own characteristic. I think people attitude is slightly different as well in Shenzhen. I think that is what Shenzhen is different. And as a city, it then has its own characteristic. People behavior, attitude are slightly different. But I think Shenzhen is slowly, my view is that becoming sort of a more mature as it started. So I think it must be very different about 20 years ago. It's even probably more migrant worker, people change very quickly. But I think now you have a lot more people who were decided to settle in Shenzhen, and I think that portion of the population percentage-wise should be increasing. And I think, and that's part of a history in Shenzhen. I think that is, from my limited, I won't say I have a lot of experience in China. I think China is so big, I still only a limited experience. But I think Shenzhen is, to me, I feel different in that way. More open, actually. The people here are more open to new ideas compared with older city like in other part of China. They are more perhaps conservative, more difficult to, not that quick to grasp a new concept and accept a new concept. So that will make the Shenzhen city itself a slightly different characteristic compared with even other city in China.
Yeah, great.
But actually, there is a large part of and not really knowing China enough, if you like. So when I came to China, I think it's very interesting to learn about how China was in the planning economy time. And I think, and talking to a lot more older people after I make friends with them, that they are more willing to talk to me on their view on the past and the present, witnessing that sort of changes or knowing what it was in the planning economy time and the modern, the more sort of with the reform, is actually important, because that gives me a much better or easier to understand the Chinese people now, why they think certain way. Certainly they are different from people from Hong Kong, the way they think. certainly from overseas, from the Western culture is quite different again. But I mean, even within Hong Kong and China, I think their thinking is quite different. To understand the Chinese people, the PRC people, you really need to understand the planning economy time, how they actually come from a planning economy to now. And I think understand that part of the evolution, I think it's important for me to be able to understand the certain sort of thinking and the behavior they have, which is different from Hong Kong. So even though we all look Chinese, but I think our thinking is quite different. But perhaps I had a bit more advantage in living in overseas in a Western country for nearly 15 years, and that I can make a lot of comparison, and it's interesting to compare say Chinese in Southeast Asia like Hong Kong, Singapore, Malaysia with the West, and also with PRC, with the Chinese people in mainland. And more interesting also to see the new generation, the way they actually think are quite different. And China is changing very rapidly too, with a lot of younger people has gone overseas, educated overseas and returned. They will be slightly different from me, because I actually go from Southeast Asia to the overseas, to the Western country, and then come back to this region. There are many Chinese now go abroad and study, and they will then experience the Western culture, and then when they return to China, I think there will be another new groups of people that would actually will bring forth the continue changing culture socially, the way we think in China, and that is good. And I think that is bringing China with the international community much closer together. And I think the mutual understanding of the West and the East, I think, will be closer that way.